So my first ever band practice in Japan, I noted that there was a big mirror on one of the walls in the studio. And I thought, ugh, what kind of masochistic narcissists would want to watch themselves during band practice? And I proceeded to practice the way that I always had before that, with my back to the wall and facing the band. I'm not going to say that that's how everyone does it. Is that how you do it? I'm genuinely curious. I'm not gonna say that it's the normal way of doing it or anything. It's just that it's how me and everybody had ever done music with up until that point always did it. However, when that particular session was done, everyone were laughing and saying how unnerving it was that I was looking at them while practicing. Even though I wasn't looking at them really, just facing them. And I thought that was really, really weird. Oh, hey, by the way, my name is Inger, and I'm a Norwegian person who lives in Japan and is in a band and does music and also some other things. Hello. So anyway, I was really confused and I was like, well, what do you mean? Where was I supposed to be facing? And they're like, duh, you face the mirror. Like, everybody knows that. And they were right. One thing that is a staple part of a practice studio in Japan, which is definitely not a thing in Norway, is a mirror wall, basically. And the standard way of practicing or rehearsing here is the band facing the mirror wall, as if you are doing a show and the mirror is where the audience would be, if that makes any sense. The only time when we'll really be facing each other normally is when like learning completely new material or trying to get into a groove together or like stuff like that. And I've gotten used to it, obviously. I'll even argue that there are merits to it. And I will a little bit later, but first let me tell you, it was really, really hard to get used to in the beginning, looking at myself singing. I'm not usually a person who loves looking at myself too much at all. I've gotten used to it. Obviously, if you've seen my social media, I do have a lot of pictures of myself. It's kind of necessary. And if I edit a video that I'm actually in, then I have to look at myself a lot. And you do get used to it. At least I do. And, I have to pick pictures of myself and stuff like that. You kind of just have to get over it at some point, is the thing. Sometimes I even have to review videos of myself on stage, which, let me tell you, is still the devil and all 7 circles of hell most of the times. But back in those times, I generally only saw myself in the mirror when putting on makeup and getting dressed, stuff like that. Except for that, I mostly avoided looking at myself, I think. Now, not only did I have to look at myself, full fucking figure, but also while I was singing. And if you ever looked in the mirror while you were singing, you will know that you make a lot of weird and unattractive faces. At least most people do. And I'm most definitely one of those. I also had to start thinking about what I do with my body. And when I first started out, I was really shy. And I was also of the kind of punk rock school that you should not be dramatic on stage because that's stupid and pretentious and all that stuff, which is honestly bullshit. And also completely un-punk rock bullshit, to be honest. Watching a concert or a rock show, at least to me, it is always more fun and engaging to see someone move around and make a show of it. It's also, when performing, a lot easier to kind of let go and get into the music when I just feel it and go a little crazy and don't think so much about whether I look stupid or not. Because ironically, being in front of that mirror, slowly forcing myself to move in the way that felt right, but I was just scared that it was going to look stupid, I could actually see for myself, like, right away what it was going to look like. And again, ironically, it got me used to kind of looking like an idiot sometimes and thinking that's how it should be. Of course, there are times when I'll do something and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not the one, and let's never do that again. But as the bigger picture, I guess you could say I'm so used to seeing myself looking like an idiot now that I'm not really embarrassed and scared of looking like one. I don't know if I'm getting the point across, but I do think that it makes for a better show, and it definitely makes for a much more fun show for me personally, because I'm just letting go, not completely, obviously, but mostly, and, concentrating on more important stuff like, singing good. And also looking entertaining, because honestly, I'd be more worried about looking boring than looking stupid, And although sounding good will always be a main thing, it really is important to actually entertain people when they come to see you, because that's why they're there and not at home listening to a CD or like iTunes or whatever. And especially when you're on a stage in front of a lot of people who've never heard your band before, which you are a lot when you do indie music. They don't know your songs. They're here to see a different band. And do they want to stay and give your band a chance, or do they want to go to the bar and get a drink? So this video did not turn out how I planned. I was actually going to do a comparison of practice spaces in Japan and in Norway back in the day when I was doing different band projects there. Instead, it has turned into a defense of the mirror in practice spaces. And look, I'm not saying that you need to have a mirror. I'm not saying that I think practice facing each other isn't good. I think, in fact, that it is really, really good. And sometimes everybody needs to do that to like connect with your band. And that's why, like I said, we do that sometimes. What I am trying to say is that the mirror does have its benefits. And it's not like an evil, narcissistic thing. And the reason why I especially want to say this is a lot because of the attitude that I had towards it. In the beginning, when I was a snot-nosed little edgelord who thought I knew everything and knew what was right and wrong to do in music and bleh. That being said, I am very curious to hear what practice spaces are like where you are at in the world. Just because it is such a long time since I actually did try to play music in Norway, I asked a bunch of friends who are doing that right now what the situations are like with practice spaces these days. And it seems that there are actually some like rent by the hour fully equipped places, but there's still a lot of renting your own space privately, making use of like local places that offer rooms with equipment and stuff like that. I remember when I played, we started out at a local youth club that'll offer, free activities to do for youth, so that they don't, smoke crack and do crimes. And I think that's really great. We also practice in the drummer's grandma's basement. At one point, we borrowed a room from another band who had like their own space that they rented. And I even once practiced in somebody's allotment garden sheds. It was not great, especially since there was no bathroom. And my bladder is like maybe not a peanut, but like a slightly larger than normal walnut, I guess. And when you sing, you also drink a lot more water. Not at all surprising to anyone, I think. In Japan, it is incredibly organized, with rent by the hour, fully equipped and staffed rooms, and yes, they all have mirror walls. There are both privately run studios and there are big chains, and you can generally find one in your vicinity. I guess unless you're in some like remote mountain village with a population of like 60 people and an average age of 90. Those exist in Japan. But who knows, maybe even then. I think the differences has a lot to do with the fact that Japan just has a much denser population than Norway does. And also, people's hobbies are big business, basically. And on one hand, it seems really nice to kind of have your own space that's yours and you can make it into a little dungeon and stuff. On the other hand, it is also really, really nice and stress-free to live in Tokyo and know that you can always find a space when you need it somewhere. I think I'm trying to say that they will have pros, they will have cons. Like I said, if you are a person who uses practice spaces, I would love to know what the situation is like where you're at. And if you have any other kind of comment for the video, feel free to share them as well. I just hope that you'll be nice about it. And if you liked the video, of course, do give it a like. Check out the links on my band and my other internet things in the description. And I think I'm done. Bye!